Hi, everyone. From us here at Ishmael Interactive, I'd like to introduce one of our board members who I do not believe has uh, been shown publicly yet. And we would just like to talk about a topic that is near and dear to our hearts, the job market. Felicia, can you introduce yourself and give us a couple of your credentials?
Hey, good morning. I am Felicia Edwards, and I am with Ishmael Interactive. Some of my background includes service design specialist, information security, technology, and also in the post-secondary education field, I assist with curriculum and instruction and design as well.
So you're going to see a lot of education programming coming out of Ishmael Interactive, both in class, workshop, and document form. But in this series of COPs, we like to highlight talent and what we look for when we're trying to find people who are special about what they do because they love what they do. And we're seeing a lot of stuff in the job market. Felicia, as somebody who does have a doctorate in education, you see a lot of these certificate programs. And what is the difference between a certificate program that you might need as entry for a job versus how you would prefer to teach a job?
Well, I guess in the job market today, we see more certification programs because I think today certifications to me take precedence over necessarily a degree, not necessarily takes precedence over degree, but certification lets them know that you have that skill set, you've got some experience in that actual area. So, of course, degree programs include some of those specialties, but when you do a certification, you are specifically geared towards skills that'll align you with that particular certification. So, in the job market today, you may see more jobs honing in on experience degrees, but they definitely want certain certifications. Certifications may be a requirement for certain opportunities now. Sometimes it's suggested, but seemingly in the job market today, certifications are more required, maybe because of that, because mostly the certifications hone in on those specific skill sets for that particular certification.
Okay, now that's an interesting point. Hearing what you said, I want to talk about the chicken and the egg issue because it's something that I see come up all the time.
Mhm.
And that issue is you have something like the PMP, project manager certification. It's the gold standard. A lot of jobs say you have to have the PMP
Mhm.
to get the job. The PMP requires you to have experience in the job to get the certification. How do you navigate the chicken and the egg, the which comes first, the skills or the certification?
How would I navigate that? For the job market today, when you're mid-level, of course, you're most likely already have those skills that you need. So you're definitely in a good position that if you do not have the certification, excuse me, you have the experience and not the certification, you're in a good position to go ahead and get the certification because now you have the chicken and the egg. You have the experience and you have the certification. Um, in the scenarios, let's think about a new graduate coming out of college. They may only have the degree, but they don't have the skills or the experience yet. This would be a good time to also go ahead and get the certification because more seems like in the job market today, more people are open to accepting those applicants with the certification because they're saying that you have experience, you've done some labs, you got some hands-on experience, and we're willing to train you further in that skill set.
Okay, so let's be a little expansive with this. And
Mhm.
I think the thing that I find personally is a lot of the time you don't know you have the experience, but you actually do. There are people who
Okay.
manage projects but aren't labeled project managers.
Hmm.
And something I like to highlight with this community of practices, as long as you love what you do and you're conveying it to other people, you're already a CX professional because you're providing the customer an experience.
Right.
So, do you often run into those things where you go further into the details of what the certification requires, and then you find out, oh, wait, I'm already doing that?
Hmm. I can actually say that because I even think about in the scenario of a lot of military professions, and you got veterans coming into the workforce. Some of those skill set may not technically have been labeled project management or labeled in my area cybersecurity, or have not been labeled those things. But once you start to get in those certifications, and even for those that are seeking degrees, you'll find that I have these skill sets. So of course, when you're filling out applications and of course with your resume, you want to make sure that you pull out those skill sets because they closely align with some of those skills already. So you may not have the title or the certification, but you find that I do actually have the experience.
Now, you find out you have the experience, that's great. You get the certification, you go in. Sometimes I run into people who just don't have the experience, though, even when they go that one level deeper to look at what they do in terms of what the actual work is.
Mhm.
And they do something like they take a certification to learn the skill. Is that how you would suggest learning? You have a doctorate in education. How are you going to teach people? Is it one of these certification tests, or would you roll forward with something else?
Okay, I would say in my area, I'm more on the curriculum and design area, but just from the experience of being in the job market, I would say definitely look at um, the things that are being covered, the curriculum that's actually being covered in the certification to see if it closely aligns with what you want to do. And of course, the skills you already have or the skill sets that you want to obtain. Make sure it has those skills in that. So I could say in the education or post-secondary education area, we teach the actual, curriculum. But when you get into certifications, they are closely aligned to those specific areas. So when you're looking for certifications, make sure that the actual course content, the labs, and whatever is included includes everything that you want to obtain or what you want to build on.
So skill forward. Everything
Skill
is be
forward.
skill forward. Okay, I
I would
like
agree.
that.
Yes, definitely.
I like that. I've peeked in on some of the conversations and meetings you've had with the CEO, Anna Monroe, and
Hmm.
I've seen with the human-centered design training that you two are putting together, you actually work on design product and document, and you're doing the thing as a form of class. So sometimes
Hmm.
it's you just got to learn it by doing it.
Yes, some things it's just OJT, as they say, on the job training. You just actually learn it. But definitely, if we're talking about the workplace today and the actual market and finding job certification is definitely something to give you the badge to say that, yes, I have that skill set.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we do know there are people with badges who have the skill set, and sometimes there's people who are just good test takers.
Hmm.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm a good test taker.
Okay.
You give me 2 weeks to prepare, I can get most pieces of paper. That's just the
Hmm.
way my brain works, whether I know anything about the thing or not.
Right.
It's just reality. But you're sitting in the interview and you want to craft responses that separate you as this isn't just a piece of paper. I actually know the thing. How would you suggest crafting an answer that shows you have the skills and the background and the education and not just the paper? Because
I
I
would
think that's a
say
weakness people have.
I think that's the weakness, and I can honestly say I've read some recent articles that said sometimes you do enough or you take the test and you do enough to get the job, but you really don't know the job. So I think some recruiters are probably having that to happen. They have the people with the certifications or they have the people with the perfect resume that reads well, but they still don't have that skill set for the job. So I can say that is possible weakness right now in the market because we're not even going to think about AI. AI can make your resume look like you have, all of
Anything
the
you could
skills
dream
necessary.
of.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. So I do think that's possibly a weakness right now in the job market or a pain point that some recruiters are probably dealing with. They have the certification, but they don't have the experience, or they test it well. So they easily pass the certification, but the experience is not there.
So how do you show authenticity? And I'm not going to recommend this, but I have talked to many people who have been on the job search lately, and I even chatted with one person who misplaced a comma just to just to add proof that it wasn't written by AI.
Okay.
Blew my mind that this is what some people are coming to, and I can't necessarily say they're wrong.
hmm
I don't know. How do you show authenticity when it comes to reflecting your education and your skills?
I think the authenticity is just going to come from, your interview because even though you may have passed the resume stage and moved on to the interview, you definitely got to show that authenticity in the actual interview itself, you know. And that's when I think even with me being a mid-level career, and if I apply for some jobs, I don't have all those certifications they may be looking for in the technology area, but I have the experience. That's when that authenticity comes in to show that, okay, I have that experience. So as long as I get past that initial interviewing phase, not excuse me, that the application phase, because right now we know that, AI and computers are looking at our resume, I can actually get to that human to show that authenticity. So definitely one of those things that, like I said, right now, a lot of resumes are passing because of AI or because they're good test takers, but the authenticity is definitely still an element that's necessary because you got to get to a human interviewer eventually.
I think that's true. I think a lot of it is showing social dynamics, and this is
hmm
why there's more of an emphasis on storytelling in interviews right now. Uh,
I
uh,
agree.
I'll give you an example. I used to be a core for our non-federal audience. That's a contract officer representative. And there's sort of a contract boss, the contract officer. They're the person who's sort of
hmm
legally responsible for how it all goes. And then there's the program office. I applied for many core positions and interviewed many times, and I was a level three, highest level you can get. Once again, I'm really
hmm
good at test taking. And I think the best interview I ever had was because I laid out a story about what do you do when your contract officer tells you one thing and your supervisor at work tells you another. And you have those conflicting opinions or conflicting orders. You're not going
Right.
to find that in any certification test whatsoever.
You're not.
But dang, does that come up often on the actual job? And you does it fit in a resume? Really fits in an interview.
It does. It does. And I can say, even on like if you go to Indeed, you'll see where some employers will add that storytelling element at the end. They'll have a couple of questions for you, sort of as like an assessment to see how you will be
Hmm.
responding, but also to actually validate, do you actually have this skill? Do you have the experience?
Right,
So I would
right.
agree that storytelling piece is definitely necessary, beneficial, and that may be a way how some employers have found that, okay, I can see if this is authentic by adding these few questions, this assessment at the end of the application.
So I'm going to add another recommendation based upon what we're talking, and something that I've also learned is if you lack the stories, you can fill in some by talking to people who have the job you want.
hmm
I was applying for a very competitive MBA program, which I got into and, ended up getting it. Uh, I had no actual business background, and yeah, I had an undergraduate degree in the field, but I was a volunteer with Peace Corps. That's
Okay.
that's not traditional, like here's the business school thing. It'll get you into
Right.
some schools, won't get you into the others. So what I did because I really wanted to really ace the interview is I started talking to people who worked in corporations in the field that I wanted to work in. It was marketing
Hmm.
at the time.
That's good.
And I would go into my interview and I could say, speak to my aspirations of what I actually want to do more
Hmm.
accurately in a way that reflects the job.
By
And
connecting with them.
yeah, and
That's good.
I find if you call most people out of the blue and say, I would like to talk about you for half an hour, they'll say yes. So
I agree.
it's really easy to get those calls.
I agree. And I think LinkedIn actually has opened that up for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
They can connect and even if they don't actually talk face to face, they can chat with people and stuff. So that's good. That's a good suggestion.
Now, I know that you have a career and a history that sort of circles around many things at a very high level. And when we're talking about emulating other people, what is it you see in somebody else or what they do or how they're operating and you say, that's my next pivot. That's where I want to go. What makes it attractive for you personally?
And say for me personally, at this level of my career, it would definitely be what's fulfilling, not necessarily, salary at this point, what's fulfilling to them. If I can see someone in an area that I can actually say in my previous employment, it was one of those spaces where I actually enjoyed it and I was fulfilled. And so if I see someone that's engaging in a company or they're working for a company where they actually appreciate the employer and enjoy what they do, that would make me inquire about, opportunities at that employer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the way I've put it to other people is get in the room. You'll find your chair once you're there,
I agree with
you
that
know.
too. Hmm.
Work on the
Yes.
proper problem.
Hmm. And
So,
especially, like you said, connecting with those people that are in that area is good. I can say at any level. I can say new graduates, mid-level, whatever. You always want to be engaged and connected with those people in that area to stay, current, to stay connected, as you said, to get a chair in the room. In this workplace today is very necessary, very important.
yes. So we mentioned LinkedIn. What are some of the other ways that you've been staying connected to people working in different fields?
For me, I'll actually say LinkedIn has been probably my primary connect. I join a couple of social media groups and I have a couple of social organizations I'm a part of, so I'm connected with a lot of people. So I could say locally, wherever you are, make sure that you're connected, attending workshops in your area that come your way. And then LinkedIn, I think that's a big platform right now to get in the know. You may not even be familiar with an area. But LinkedIn, if you start to read some of the posts and the articles and stuff, you can just get more engaged and you can find out more about yourself, honestly, and find out some things that you didn't even know about yourself. So, or that you were interested in getting in by reading
Okay.
some of the articles and talk with some of the people, and you'll have some people that'll reach out to you and ask, are you interested in this content? And once you read it, you may say, oh, well, maybe I am. Because we know pretty much recruiters and all sorts of people are always reaching out to you to engage with you. So I can say for me, LinkedIn is one of the biggest ones. And then, of course, social organizations locally to stay connected.
Excellent. Excellent. I like the focus on local. Um, I like the focus on LinkedIn. It's done wonders for me too in terms of staying connected.
Hmm.
Let's put a little hook on this. In terms of hitting the job market, you want people to see talent. You want people to see a desire for growth.
Hmm.
If you could give somebody advice who is, out there looking, other Felicia too,
Okay.
what would you say to them as like that bottom line most important thing?
For growth,
Yeah.
I can say, but a mid-level career, I can honestly say at this point, it's what's fulfilling for you. And that's where you're growing. That's what you'll thrive in. That's where you'll actually want to build on and want to grow in. So, like me, like you said, I have a vast background from technology to education. But in both of those areas, I'm in positions that are fulfilling to me. So definitely, and in those areas, of course, you want to continue to grow, stay in environments where you can grow and where you can stay relevant with the content that's available. So I can, in my opinion, it would be for growth, you want to be in something fulfilling. I think in those areas where you may be in a job market or a position where you're not really enjoying the job, you get those additional certifications or the continued training just because it's required. You're not necessarily wanting to be in those spaces.
Very
But
true.
if you're in a space, right, if you're in a space where you want to be, you want to grow, you want to get better, you want to be better in that position. So, in order to grow, I think you should be looking for something that's fulfilling and something definitely in your skill set.
Excellent. So to cap it all off from us here at Ishmael Interactive, our top lesson here would be lead with joy. Find
I
fulfillment and what makes you happy, and the rest will follow. Thank you,
love it.
everyone.